Hi, Coach Hoffman here. So a lot of talk about oligarchs these days. Oligarchs, the rich people who have become associated with the Trump campaign. Now, thinking back on many campaigns that I've been around and known people who were a part of it, there's a lot of good people who get involved in politics. They don't have very much money in their pocket, and you have to go out and raise money and do all the hard stuff it takes. And everybody who gives you money wants a little something from you. So it's very, very difficult to be a representative, be in a representative republic and take money, raise money so you can go buy ads and do radio spots and TV spots and still stay authentic. It's a real tough challenge. It gets a lot easier if you're personally wealthy. Then you can find, like Vivek Ramaswamy has been able to show, and certainly Elon Musk has found as part of, he wants to do something in the world, which is go take humanity to Mars. He's acquired a lot of money. He's willing to spend the money to do it. And you find that you can, when you have private wealth, that you can become, you can have a conscience. You have Jeff Bezos I'm not saying he's a MAGA guy. He's been working against Trump for a long time. Bought the Washington Post to essentially destroy Trump. And here he's at the inauguration, playing along with everybody else. You had Bill Gates, who pretty much tried to kill the human race. He's out there, Mr. Globalist himself, with Klaus Schwab and the gang. All of a sudden realizing, what future do I have? Now Trump's going to be back in office, so he's trying to suck up to all this. So the oligarchs and all these rich and wealthy people who are looking for ways to use the money and influence, independence that money gives them to do something good in the world. You know, money can be used for good or evil because it gives you access to assets that you can then apply. And we have this attitude about that's kind of a leftover socialist model that says that we don't want to have a whole lot of rich people unless they are part of our party. We can use the oligarchs to spread communism around the world. When you hear the criticisms that there's so many wealthy people in the Trump administration who are wealthy and influential, and that's where our government's going, away from representative republic, I would say it's our goal as an American society to make as many rich people as we can, so that as many people who are possible can gain independent wealth, and independence that the wealth gives them can have an opportunity to do good things in the world. And that you want to have a capitalist system that makes more of those kinds of people than less. You don't want the government divvying out who gets to have power. You want people to compete, get resources because of it, and then use those resources when they gain independence for ethical standards and that your society should be producing. So proportionally, if you produce a lot of wealthy people, you should have a lot of people who are independent of the day-to-day grind that goes on, so they can gain intellectual aptitude to make a better society. And I think you find that when you start looking around at people like Trump. Trump could have never ran for president if he wasn't independently wealthy. He would have never survived the meat grinder. So it takes a certain amount of independent wealth to have an independent attitude. And I think that's certainly the case with Vivek Ramaswamy. I've met him several times, and I will tell you, the guy wants to do something well. He's still young in life, and he wants his wealth that he's generated has given him a level of independence to do the right things, at least from his perspective. So I don't think it's an accident that politics in general, especially independent politics, has to have a lot of wealthy people who can survive the scrutiny of the crazy Marxists that are always looming in the background. And so this attitude, this anti-oligarch attitude is what they call them, that you destroy wealth so that you can use government to confiscate wealth and redistribute it to this middle class that the socialists out there have invented, has been completely the wrong model. And they're completely wrong in their assumptions, and they've lost their ability to do that because people have seen where it's taken them. This idea of confiscating wealth, destroying the wealthy, or if you want to be wealthy, you had to sign up for Democrat politics, has been very destructive. We've seen in America that it's not where we want to go. And even people who have been on the wrong side of that, like the names I mentioned, are realizing that they were probably playing for the wrong team all along. And I think as soon as everybody saw that Trump stood up to a bullet, his face, his head bleeding from being shot in the ear, and he still continued his fight for America, I think it earned a lot of people to re-examine their places in life. And it's won people over who otherwise weren't supportive of Trump. But it's because you're independently wealthy. When you're independently wealthy, you have the ability to make those decisions, as opposed to someone who has to sign up for a paycheck and then you have to adopt whatever it is the person who gives you the paycheck thinks. And you lose a certain amount of free will that a lot of people fantasize about having. And we want to live in a system where maybe we have a chance to have that for ourselves. So we support those who do succeed at it because we want the chance. Just like going to a casino. Everybody wants to win the big jackpot, and very few people do. Usually the house wins. But it's the fantasy of trying that we want. We don't want a government that confiscates everything and gives everybody a little bit of lunch money. We want an opportunity to gain independence through wealth, because it really takes wealth to gain independence. You can have a level of independence without wealth, and I think that's another aspect of what we want out of representative government. But then what are the best representatives for government? Are they the down and out people who can barely rub a couple of nickels together, and they're always out there raising money and can't have independent thoughts because the people give them money demand that they do certain things to get the money? Or is it people who have plenty of money in the bank and are truly offering themselves as a representative, and they can afford to have their own independent thoughts? And my experience is the people who are independently wealthy are much more trustworthy. And you want a system that goes out there and produces more of those kinds of people. Because if we did not have the apprentice attitude, where you had great wealth, the money attitude that you saw from the old Apprentice show that Trump was the host of, if you didn't have that, if you didn't have that approach, you wouldn't have a country that can produce people like President Trump or Elon Musk or any of these other characters who have all of a sudden found that they can do good things in the world. I've been talking about Palmer Luckey because of the deal in Ohio, where they're wanting to build autonomous drones for the Defense Department. Without his independent wealth and his independence to do such a thing, a big task like that would not happen on such a quick market share trajectory as it's happening with him. But because he's independently wealthy and he's young and he's gained the independence to have free thought to do things, and you that can go for good or bad. A lot of people become evil geniuses and turn out to be the Lex Luthors of the world, and you don't want them. But you can't have the fantasy that you can use government to protect yourself from those types of people has been a socialist dream, because then you end up giving all the power to people who can't handle it, and then government has too much power over your lives, and then they end up becoming the facilitators of financial distribution, and everybody ends up hurting and not thriving. What you want to do is have a competitive environment where people choose to do right because it's the right thing to do, and they have independent wealth to do so. So when you have people who have a lot of money that can rule the world, like Bill Gates, what's to keep him from doing it? Well, other people who are equally competitive with financial markets and can leverage against that with financial viability, like Elon Musk. And when people see that he's turned towards the Trump way of doing things, and that Trump, even with all his wealth that he's had, is willing to go out there and fight, even at the cost of his own life, you tend to get other people who want to sign up for it. But only when you achieve a certain amount of wealth do you have the independence to be able to function with that kind of criteria. And especially doing it when you have interactions with other human beings. So I think you want a life where you have many more wealthy people, and the Trump administration has a lot of those types of people have been drawn to it, and I think it's only a benefit. And it will undo all the socialist schemes that have been laid in the background for so many years to attempt to put more power into centralized government, the way Karl Marx always envisioned it. And that whole model is coming to an end, and they know it. And that's a great thing. But I don't have any concern at all that there's so many wealthy people who have decided to become part of the Trump administration. I think that's a credit, not a hindrance. And it started from the leadership he provided, and now has seduced, might be a good word for it. He's seduced other people to maybe turn away from evil, or select not to be so evil in order to do good work from the perspective of the independence that wealth has given them. And I think Trump has been a good baseline for people to bounce their own ideas off of, and not follow the standard model of the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds or any of those old banking clans that have caused so many conspiracy theories in the world that have been so destructive and detrimental. Trump has changed the game, and it's not bad to be wealthy, and it certainly has changed the way people view wealth, which has been the anti-communist kind of mechanism that has had a hard time being unleashed in the modern age, because people didn't have a perspective to it, because it was the jealousy politics that governments used to try and keep themselves in power, so they didn't have so many other people who could gain power and leverage and then actually get control of a government as a representative independently put there to represent people who didn't have the same kind of wealth, because they were looking for representatives who could be independent enough to represent their needs in government. And I think that's what we're seeing, and that's why you're seeing so many wealthy people migrating to Trump's way of doing things. Does that mean you put your caution away and don't trust everybody implicitly? No, you don't trust anybody. You make everybody earn it, including Trump. But if you want to have a representative government that actually works, I think you're going to find that a lot of people who are willing or can join that kind of government, that kind of movement, are people who have earned independent wealth. And the best and most honest society you can have is a society that has a lot of people who have access to gaining a lot of wealth themselves, so they too can join as an independent contributor to a healthy civilization, because they don't have to do a lot of bidding the need to earn enough money to buy groceries every week. It goes a long way to be able to have an ethical attitude that is stands up to the face of scrutiny and does the kind of things you need a government to do for you. So oligarchs in Trump's government, I don't see them as oligarchs. I just think it's a collection of people who want to do the right thing, who have earned the opportunity to think independently for themselves and provide representation to people who are trying themselves to have a crack at becoming independently wealthy in their own way, whether that's financially or intellectually or a combination of both. Independence and wealth measurements are important to be able to function as an independent person in a government that is trying to give upward mobility to the maximum amount of people as possible and take away the temptation of tyranny of a government that becomes abusive in its power because not enough people think independently of that power to keep everything measured out correctly. So I'm encouraged by the kind of people who are being drawn to Trump's government. And it doesn't make me like Bill Gates anymore, that's for sure, or Jeff Bezos, or any of those people. But I think in a world where the temptations to do right or wrong are always permeating, the decision to make good decisions towards right and correct behavior comes from financial independence and a culture that Trump has been able to create through his own life that inspires others to join him and represent and create in America something unique in the human race that is going to last for many centuries to come in a healthy way that probably the human race has never seen before. And I think it's wonderful that we're having this opportunity in 2025 to do so. And I only see good things coming of it. Well, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. And we have a good day. See you later.